On today's show, we talk to Tim Giblin of Clicker. We talk a little bit about how he addresses a common problem that even I've had when I go to sports bars and sports books around the world.
This is crazy.
Everywhere you turn, it's the same old sports talk, the same headlines, the same news, and the same boring information. This podcast is here to change all of that. We bring you hot sports takes, winning sports betting strategy and picks, reliable gaming industry news, and breaking interviews with some of the biggest names in sports business. My name is Ryan Newpel, and welcome to the Noop Sports Show. All right, welcome back to another episode of the Noop Sports Show. I'm your host, Ryan Newpel, here with you each and every time. Hey, today we have a cool guest with us today. We got Tim Giblin with Clicker. Tim, welcome. I'm glad you're here with me today.
Yeah, excited to get started here.
Awesome. How you doing there in the Midwest? You're located in Ohio, correct?
Cincinnati, Ohio. Yep. Born and raised here. Never left. So just trying to start a cool little business here.
Amazing. Yeah, Tim is on a mission to fix one of these problems that has been a personal problem of mine for like decades, and I hope he's able to fix this with what he's doing. So Tim, why don't you just dive right in and tell us just first of all the 100-foot view of what Clicker is and what you're out to accomplish with Clicker.
Yeah, cool. I'll tell you a little bit about kind of how we got started and what we're up to. So my co-founder, Connor, we've been friends for 10 years or so, both big sports fans. I'm a Xavier basketball, Reds and Bengals fan. Went to Miami University, so not much to root for there, other than a hockey team that's occasionally good. But I have fantasy teams and like to throw down the occasional parlay. And Connor went to Florida State. He's a big FSU football fan, who, by the way, is not doing too well. So we always like to do just a moment of silence for the Florida State football team, if that's okay.
Sure.
Thank you. But yeah, now he claims to be an FSU basketball fan, but we won't get into that. But anyway, he's lived in a bunch of different cities, always trying to get his Florida State game on. And we originally would go to bars and restaurants and sports books, and we were always trying to get our games on. You guys know the deal when you ask your waiters or bartenders. Sometimes you wait 10 minutes. You got to think about when the appropriate time to ask them again. Sometimes they ask you what channel, then you got to figure out what cable or satellite provider they have and Google that. And then they might have to ask the manager. And there's just so many things that they have to do. So it's understandable when the channel doesn't get changed right away. They have to clean up, serve food and beverage, welcome guests, refill drinks, all that stuff. So we thought, like, why isn't there just a better way to do this? There's technology out there that should be able to help with this kind of gap that we've identified. And for the bars and restaurants and sports books, like, the ultimate goal should be to serve the guests, provide the best experience. And why can't we provide that living room experience at these venues kind of around the world? So we act together like how to programmatically talk to DirecTV boxes, since DirecTV's got an exclusivity on Sunday Ticket. And we created a device that, like I said, is able to talk to these DirecTV boxes. And we allowed guests to walk in and change the channels from an app that we created. And so we launched that in a few pilot locations and here in Cincinnati and one sports book out in Colorado. Trying out a few different models with the app. So one's kind of similar to TouchTunes, where you can reserve it for a time frame, spend some tokens, and kind of reserve time frames for the TV. Another one's just like a free for all. Just anyone can change the channel at any time. Some restaurants aren't keen to that, but still figuring it out. There's other cool kind of models out there that we're going to try out, like a consensus voting model where imagine you're at a restaurant and the 4:00 NFL games are coming on. Like, why not have just everyone cast a vote for what game should be on the big TV, things like that. And then from there, we kind of realized that we have a cool technology. Another big problem is that these TV, like, all the TVs aren't necessarily on the right thing at the right time. Sometimes the weather channel comes on after the local games and things like that. Sometimes they miss the Pac-12 after dark games. And so we launched another product called Control Center, where we basically automate channel changes throughout the day so that managers and waitresses and waiters and bartenders don't have to worry about changing the channel. We kind of get in there and do that all kind of magically behind the scenes for them.
That's amazing, Tim. I mean, yeah, it's the classic, example of finding a problem and addressing the problem. And now it's your life, to try to fix this problem. And I love products like that or services like that, anything that really, there truly is a problem with this. And I think if anybody ever, goes, to watch games at a bar or to go to a sports book and they've seen this problem happen over and over and over. And it certainly is. So, speaking of sports books, a lot of the guests on this show, a lot of people that listen to this show have an iGaming background. So a little more, sports betting style. I could see this really fitting in well. I think you mentioned, you're already in with a casino or a sports book in Colorado. I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you see this fitting into that space and how it serves, I guess, that space, or could grow with that space as well. Because we all know that's going to be an evolving area, the sports betting space. So how do you see Clicker, playing a role or being a part of that space?
Sure. So I think obviously given the circumstances of COVID and everything that's going through, people aren't getting out as much, and we'll see how that plays out when things start to reopen. It might still be a while here, it looks like, but I think like a major thing is, like I said before, kind of that living room experience out at bars and restaurants. So I think a lot of times you'll go out to a sports book, bar, restaurant, and you won't necessarily know if you're going to be able to get your game on or get a table, or
100%
kind of what the atmosphere is going to be like. So we think we can kind of provide that reliability that, hey, I know I can go to bar X and I can get my game on. It might cost me a few bucks, but most people are willing to pay that. And that's kind of who our target customer is. People kind of willing to spend a few extra dollars for that comfort of knowing that experience that you're going to get there. And I think at sports books, same kind of thing. There's tons of TVs there usually, and a lot of them are underutilized and showing things that people aren't necessarily betting on. So we think we can somehow fit our technology into that.
Yeah, because sports betting, I mean, it's all about engagement, fan engagement. And if you're going out to a sports book, you're betting on games and you clearly want to watch certain games, and it may change as the day goes on. Right. And so even having a set of TVs, or like you said, it doesn't have to be the entire facility that's on this, because I can just imagine problem after problem if every TV is always changing based on what somebody said. But maybe you have a select area or a select few that are certainly dedicated to that. I'm sure you guys have talked through all of that. It kind of leads me into my next question about what types of problems you guys have come through or tackled as you went along the way. Because I mean, as much as I love this idea, I'm also, my brain's going with like, ooh, that could be an issue, or, oh, that could be an issue, or, that could be a problem. So what types of problems have you seen, and how do you handle those objections, from restaurants or sports books that may have some of those concerns? I guess what types of concerns are you seeing? And then I guess, how are you handling those?
Yeah. Definitely with the app, we've gotten some pushback from managers that they just think it's going to be chaos with people constantly changing the channels. One kind of solution to that is just putting it on a few select TVs, maybe some that are kind of over in the corner that aren't underutilized. We think we can kind of like almost monetize your TVs in that way, kind of, because DirecTV is known to charge you a few bucks for their monthly service. So we think we can kind of help bars and restaurants get some money back towards that. I think with Control Center, we definitely had some issues at first where like it was all time based. So the 4 o'clock NFL games would just turn on at 4 o'clock, not really realizing that the 1 o'clock games could go into overtime, and there might be some Carolina Panthers fans there that are watching the game. Not that that was an exact case that happened, but so we added in some sports or some score logic there to kind of understand the context and game flows, to make sure we don't turn a game off that's in overtime and make sure it's either over or at least a pretty major blowout before we turn on other games. So we definitely been learning at our pilot customers there.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So tell me a little bit about where you're at, where you're at, what you're looking for in business. Cause we all know as business owners, as entrepreneurs, it's not easy. There's always challenges. There's things we're looking for from people. And part of the thing I like about this show is you never know who's listening. And there may be people listening that think this is a great idea and want to be involved, or at least want to chat with you, or maybe have a connection for you. What types of things are you looking for that, maybe the audience that's listening to this could help with?
Yeah. So yeah, I think we're just looking for kind of early partners at chains of restaurants or sports books, or even the mom and pop one that is really into the idea. I think a lot of these places realize that there are issues around changing channels and all that. A lot of people aren't open to the idea of kind of providing that experience, but I mean, we kind of have a chicken and the egg problem where we're trying to get this out there and get some data on kind of returning customers and how much people spend and all that. But definitely having some issues with kind of pitching the idea and kind of changing how people watch sports at these bars and restaurants.
Well, explain a little bit more about how that would work from a relationship with a restaurant or with a sports book. I mean, are they paying a license fee to use your technology and your system, or is, I guess, what's that monetization look like? What's that commitment look like from them on their side?
Yep. So it's a pretty easy installation. We just send you a device that can talk to your DirecTV boxes, and then from that point you're clicker enabled, so we'll turn you on in the app, and then if you also want Control Center, we can get that live on there too. Typically it costs around $100 a month for the bars and restaurants and sports books. We are interested in this revenue sharing model, similar to TouchTunes, where on the app, if you spend $5 to reserve a TV for an hour or so, we'll just split that both ways. And we think that if we can get in there and start to get heavy usage, figure out kind of the in-store marketing around that to actually show people how to use Clicker, and we get heavy usage out of that, we can both benefit from that, because we can kind of split that in a way that's beneficial to both of us.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate you giving those that kind of that background. That's clear. That kind of makes sense how that works. And it honestly doesn't sound like a terrible amount of commitment or anything to really, dive in and try something like this. Cause I could see it being one of those things that, like, you don't know what you don't have. Right. And once you have it, you're like, man, I don't know how we lived before we had this or whatever. Yep. I could see this being one of those products that you're kind of like, yeah, maybe not. But then once you start, you're like, wow, like, I like this. This is good. This helps. This improves the life of my staff and people here. So
yeah, and we're super nimble, small company that we're really trying to. We know we have kind of a cool technology, and we know there's hundreds of different ways to apply this. Every time we talk to someone, we'll come up with some new ideas around, like doing the voting for the 4:00 games, or kind of different ways of reserving TVs, or even like Uber pricing, where at Saturday at 4:00 it bumps up a little bit because surge pricing. And so I think we're willing to work with new companies that are willing to give us a shot.
That's amazing. That's awesome. Well, cool. Well, let's jump off topic here real quick, because I love the very first few comments you made about how you and your partner are. It seems like you guys are really into sports as well. Like, obviously, you're enjoying sports, and you guys kind of have this little friendly rivalry regarding your teams and things like that, which is really cool. I'm here in Central Florida, so everybody here is Gators fans. And when you said Florida State, I can envision this. They're always battling the Florida State and Florida. So my question around that is, how did COVID affect your sports life this last year? I mean, were you still into it just as much as always, or did it kind of sour it for you as a fan, not seeing fans in the crowd and just not having the same, schedule as we've always seen? How did you react to the seasons so far? I
mean, definitely lots of different reactions. I mean, we're all in that I don't even know how long it was, 2 or 3 month period, at least it seemed like, of basically no sports on. And then there was Japanese baseball, I think, was the first one back on, and everyone was just all in on that. So that was a funny little moment there. But yeah, I think fans not in the stands is definitely a different ball game. In the end, I think we all just started to get used to it, or a lot of people started to get used to it. I think there were some cool things that happened too, as far as I think MLB, NFL, and NBA were all on the same time, or almost all on the same time, which rarely ever happens. So there's definitely some good sports on. I thought the bubble aspect was definitely different, but it was cool. Like I'm a huge LeBron fan, being from Ohio. So I always love seeing him make a run and see all his haters come out. And so just another year of LeBron.
The bubble was cool, but man, I was like 10 miles away from it and I couldn't do anything with it. I'm like, man, the bubble's right down the road. There's every NBA player is here and I can't see them or whatever. That's like dream come true for an NBA fan to be able to have them all. Right. And now I'm hearing, reading a little bit about the March Madness. NCAA may do a bubble around the tournament a little bit. We're still kind of early recording this in late 2020, but I could see that being a possibility, I guess. For sure. It for the NBA. So but we'll see if that happens once March Madness comes around. Who's your team in college basketball? Do you have
Xavier?
You said that Xavier fan. Okay.
So it's quick tangent. Xavier and Florida State. Normally you wouldn't think they play a whole lot, but they've actually played 2 super meaningful games in the past 4 or 5 years in the second round. Xavier lit them up the first time around, which was probably Florida State's best team, and then Florida State very lightly beat us.
So you're hoping for the three,
with some help from some phantom calls on JP McCura, but it was tough for both of us.
So you're hoping for maybe the tiebreaker.
I'm hoping the tiebreaker doesn't break the company, but we'll see.
Well, that's awesome, Tim. Well, I know you're a busy man. Getting a company off the ground is not easy. Any final words before we get off here? Anything you want to say that maybe we didn't touch on, or just any last words for people listening?
No, I think we covered a lot of good stuff. I really appreciate you having me on. I think, like I said, we have a really cool technology. I think we definitely have identified a problem. But yeah, we're still trying to figure out kind of the best way to apply this. There's tons of different ways, just in our short life as a company that we've tried out. Definitely seeing some that have worked and some that have not worked. So yeah, anyone that wants to chat, just about the technology, clicker, sports in general, hit me up. Tim at tryclicker.com, tryclicker.com is the website. You can also sign up on there. It's
amazing. We'll put all those links out in the show notes so people don't have to remember it. We'll get your email and your or whatever we can find on you out there, and that way people can click on it. So Tim, I really appreciate you being here, man. It was a joy, and I hope 12 months from now I can have you back on and talk about the thousands of bars you're in across the nation, and hopefully I can go to my one down the street and start changing the channel.
That'd be dope.
I'll get in there and talk to him. I'll say, hey, you need this.
Do it.
Awesome, Tim. Well, thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Hey, everybody listening, stay safe. Thank you for listening and giving us a little bit of your time. We always appreciate it. Have a good one, everyone. Until next time. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Noob Sports Show. If you enjoyed this podcast, please consider subscribing to our iTunes channel today. Plus, visit us at noobsports.com for more picks, previews, strategy, and news. That's knupsports.com.